Hey everyone. Now, a comment was made on my last video asking me to talk about the ever-increasing anti-black rhetoric that is getting a lot of traction. And it's something that I was planning on doing for a while, but that comment prompted me to finally record a video on it. Now, how I class anti-black rhetoric is when you have views or talking points which is solely designed to denigrate black people, black issues or black causes. But the more I think of it, the less I call it anti-black rhetoric. And it's really just white fear being projected. And that's what the root cause for all of this is. Now, for a while now, if you've not noticed, the climate is all about pushing back against globalization, the great replacement theory, as they call it, pushing back against the New World Order, and of course, pushing back against woke culture. But people, you need to peel back the layers to really see what all these have in common. It's a small, loud subsection of white people who are scared about their role and how they fit into society and the world at large going forward. Hence the vitriol that exists. Because at one point I did believe a lot of these were the legitimate conversations about things which, let's be honest, have been, now told as, factually incorrect, or things which have gone on which is factually incorrect. We'll talk about how certain TV roles or film roles are being casted in certain ways which we know is just historically inaccurate. And those are things I agree with. I've even discussed it in a couple of my videos. But it doesn't stop there, and it progresses into other talking points and other examples and lessons that, when you look at it, it's solely designed to keep you in your place, make you aware of who you are, not what you think you are, but we know who you are, and we're going to tell you who you are, where you actually come from, what you actually done in life. And this is where the white fear comes into action, because just like red pill rage, that's what they're doing. It's feeding into the rage that exists because they're not seeing, or they're seeing the future and looks bleak. And they reinforce a victim mentality that we're being overrun by people who are not our equals. The system is designed against us. Look at the problems that these people have caused. And again, they always feed the examples which reinforces that mentality and reinforces the rage. And how if we only turn back time, everything was so great before. Everything was so wonderful before. Even though if we do turn back time and we look at history, we realize something took place called World War II. That had just finished. And that was the second, hence the name World War II, the second European Civil War, which, especially in case of World War II, it didn't just stop there at Europe. They went and mashed up the East, the Middle East. So a lot of issues that took place now in the Middle East that I've still seen a lot of issues in the news, that's because of what Europeans did on their own homeland. So when we talk about turning back time, and we talk about how things were so perfect, I just got to say this, really. So World War II, was that perfect? World War I, was that perfect? All these issues that took place, was that so perfect? But we know what we mean. We know what they mean. We know what it is. So when they talk about immigration, net migration now, it's the most pressing issue that we need to discuss, despite the fact of, according to my news, we are going through a cost of living crisis and a standards of living crisis not seen since World War II. I mean, that's more important to me, but, that's not the case. And these aren't things caused by immigrants. They're not. They're not caused by people arriving on the shores over the last sort of 2 years. That has not caused the cost of living crisis or the standards of living crisis at all. But in the main, due to the policies and actions of people who look just like them. Matter of fact, some of it is down to, you could argue, this third European Civil War. But again, that doesn't serve the purpose of what they're trying to do with the anti-black rhetoric. Now, they call it the Great Replacement, as I mentioned before. But let's really get into that a little bit. What is it? They are fearing the same things that historically they have done to others. They are fearing the fact that they may be colonized. They fear or are petrified of being dictated to in their own lands by outsiders. They fear the same things that historically they have done to other people. That's what they fear, especially when they believe they are that group, the superior group, and they're the ones who should be dictating to the world how things should be done. Talk about Qatar. It's another West, the Europeans, dictating to other people what should be done, how you should be living, and how this should, and if they don't play ball with how we agree with it, we're going to box you out. Whether it be by their trade embargoes, whether it be by not awarding certain situations, they're going to box you out to make sure if you don't follow our rules, we are definitely we're going to hamper you from being able to succeed. Even though, let's be honest, when the war that took place in Afghanistan and Iraq, regime change, did anyone box out the Americans or box out any Brits? Did anyone stop them from participating? Did anyone have any trade embargoes? Even though inquiries came out that it was a complete BS war? I'll wait. They fear exactly the same things that they have done to other people historically being done to them. They're the ones who think they're the sun. They're the ones who think the world must revolve around them. If that's not the case, it's not normal. They call it woke. That's where there's a lot of time when I hear the word woke now, again, it's another dog whistle. We know what that is. The word woke just means if it's not centered around white and a lot of white straight men in anything, whether it be the hero, whether it be the person who's the most intelligent, the people who are the most daring, that's not normal. That can't be right. No, that doesn't work in my normal paradigm. That's what woke culture is for a lot of the times. Don't get fooled by the obvious wokeness. You got to really peel back the layers to find out exactly what it is. It's just Project White Fear. But what can I say? As one famous YouTuber states, and this is the reason why, all cultures are not equal. So we know what that means. We know that some cultures they hold in higher esteem, some cultures they hold in lesser esteem. So in response to a comment posted about, the anti-black rhetoric, I expect it to continue because fear as a whole is increasing with all the situation that's going on with people not being able to heat their homes, put food on their table, worrying about their mortgage. It's only going to increase. So any little thing that they can do to clean up, to cleave or to attack or to lash out with easy targets, that is still going to be the case. And I expect these kind of topics to still keep going on because the first response is to attack, denigrate, and just remind everyone else of their faults just because that puts them at ease, at least for now. Now, I shouldn't have to say this. I should have caveated this at the start, but I am nowhere near saying this represents what all white people are thinking and all white people who talk about some of these issues that I've addressed. I believe that some have some really, really valid concerns that should be discussed, which I support. And again, I've talked about some of this on this channel. But what is clear is that the rhetoric is turning the same way that other spaces have done and are continuously going in that cycle of doing. They continually spew negativity, which they advertise as facts and being objective or just seeing the world for how it really is, not for how people are telling us what it is, not the propaganda machine. But let's be honest, it's only as a means to feed the fear, which will get an emotional response, and the process repeats, and that's how the traction continues and gains and gains and gains. And that's really what's going to happen. That's what it is. So one final thing I wanted to speak on, in which at some point I hope to do a further deep dive into, and that is the rise of the anti-black pick-me's that exist in media spaces that disguise themselves as free thinkers. Because I see a lot of this in which they pretty much do say, think, feel the exact same way in which, had you not known who they were, you would think it's from the exact same group that's spewing this anti-black rhetoric. And that's something that needs a very much of another video, a deep dive at some point, because I don't want to use the word which is coming to mind, but there's some issues and some topics that I listen to, and I think to myself, regardless if you think you're a free thinker or conservative thinking, there are topics which I believe most would agree with, or at least won't cross that line, or there's certain things where, from an optics perspective, it wouldn't be the case. But no, that's not what happens in this situation. So I think what I definitely needs discussing, because this also feeds into, and again, we talk about optics, but these are the type of people who give credence to these types of talking points. And a lot of really, really far left or far right racists can just hide themselves under the banner. We've all heard this. But let me know your thoughts on this topic. Until next time.
The jury will now go off and deliberate on...
Guilty! That nigger is guilty!
Sir, settle down. You have to go deliberate.
I don't need to deliberate. Hang that nigger now. I got the rope right here.